Her day always started before the sun. Hair tied back, apron clean, coffee in hand. She'd open the cold storage, flip the switches on the warming trays, and start prepping for a school full of hungry mouths. Teresa had worked in the cafeteria for nearly a decade. She didn't teach, she didn't supervise, but she saw everything. Which kids arrived late, which ones never brought lunch money, which ones lingered at the end of the line hoping for seconds, but never asked. She didn't need rosters to know who was missing. The trays told her. It started in October, a few uneaten meals. 3 trays returned untouched, then 6, then 10. She mentioned it casually to the head cook. Fewer kids today? The cook shrugged. Maybe a field trip? But there was no permission slip folder on the office desk. No buses idling in the parking lot. Just silence. The next day, the milk crate was half full after second period. Unusual. By Friday, 2 full bins of sealed meals were returned. Kids weren't eating less. They were simply gone. She started making notes. October 317 extra meals. October 422 trays uneaten. October 509 fewer milks pulled from inventory. By the second week, she noticed which names stopped showing up. Not all at once, quietly, scattered. Mostly kids from the free lunch list. She remembered their faces, knew their favorite snacks. Which ones hated peas? Which ones always asked for the corner piece of lasagna? Now those trays sat cold, unloved, waiting for hands that didn't arrive. She checked with front office staff. Enrollment's always a little bumpy, they said. But the teachers in the lunchroom weren't making jokes anymore. No chatter about weekend plans. No hallway greetings. Just tight smiles and distracted eyes. Like they all knew something, but were told not to talk about it. Teresa went back to her prep table, pulled a tray of rolls from the oven. The warmth hit her face. She didn't cry. Not then. But something inside her shifted. Lunch wasn't just lunch anymore. It was a ledger. A record of absence. And every tray left untouched was a silent entry in a book no one else was reading. By the 3rd week of October, the absences were no longer subtle. Entire tables once filled with noisy, messy eaters now sat empty. Forks clinked louder. Laughter had dead zones. And the line at the register moved too quickly. Teresa kept watching. She adjusted her prep each morning, shaving a few portions off the usual count. But no matter how much she scaled back, there were always leftovers. Too many. She stopped asking the kitchen manager. Stopped trying to get answers from the front office. The smiles were tighter now. The eyes colder. One Tuesday morning, a boy named Isaiah walked into the cafeteria alone. He was usually surrounded by friends. Noisy, sharp, hungry kids with baggy clothes and endless stories. Today, he was silent. No tray. Just a folded-up dollar bill and an apple from home. "Where's your crew?" Teresa asked gently. He shrugged. "Gone," he said. "Moved, I think." "Moved? 5 kids in a week?" She wanted to ask more, but he just sat down at a corner table, pulled his hoodie over his head, and didn't eat. That afternoon, the principal made an announcement over the intercom. Something about enrollment recalibration and community redistribution plans. No one explained what those meant. But the next day, another 2 kids were missing. Then 4. One was Jania, a girl Teresa knew by heart. Always asked for extra beans. Always thanked her twice. Gone. No explanation. No goodbye. Her tray sat in the stack untouched. That night, Teresa didn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying their faces. Not the ones who were still there, the ones who weren't, and the way the adults around them acted like it was normal, expected, manageable. But she knew better. This wasn't attrition. It was erasure. Systematic. Sanctioned. She arrived early the next morning and opened the freezer. The delivery was late. Again, when it arrived, It had fewer items than usual. She asked the driver. "New orders," he said. "You guys are on the reduced list." "Why?" He just shrugged. "Budget adjustments." Budget. She stared at the new clipboard that came with the shipment. The school's name had an asterisk next to it, and in red ink, Phase 2 eligible. She didn't know what that meant, but her gut did. Later that day, she saw two teachers whispering in the corner of the staff lounge. One of them had a tear streak down her cheek. The other just kept repeating, "We weren't supposed to know." Teresa went back to the kitchen, pulled the mac and cheese trays from the oven, but everything tasted colder now, even the heat. Friday morning, the hallway lights flickered. Teresa entered through the back entrance like always, keys jangling, thermos in hand, steps echoing through the empty corridor. But something was different. The air felt too still, no clatter of lockers, no chatter from early arriving teachers, no smell of copy toner from the admin wing. She reached the kitchen and stopped. No delivery crates, no prep list on the clipboard, no power to the warming ovens. The breakers hadn't tripped. The kitchen had simply stopped. She opened the fridge, half empty. The walk-in freezer, locked from the outside. She checked the bulletin board. A new memo was pinned there, printed in a bold serif font, governmental tone. It read, "Effective immediately, food service operations for this location are suspended until further notice." No signature, just a logo. She stood still, reading it 3 times. Suspended, not canceled. Just suspended, like something waiting to be erased completely. A knock on the kitchen door startled her. It was the school counselor, a woman Teresa barely knew, face pale, hands wringing. "They said not to talk," she whispered. "Who said?" The woman hesitated. "District or higher? I don't know." "They're removing the files. Family records. Food program data." Teresa felt her stomach turn. "You mean erasing them?" Teresa walked slowly to the lunchroom. No menus posted. It looked like a space waiting to be forgotten. At noon, a small group of students wandered in, confused, hungry, looking for food that wouldn't come. She found some granola bars in a back cabinet, cracked open a few juice boxes left over from last semester. The kids ate in silence. No one asked why lunch was missing. They already knew something was wrong. Teresa sat with them. A cafeteria worker, sleeves rolled up, wiping down an unused table while quietly feeding ghosts. At 1:30 p.m., she passed the main office. The receptionist's desk was empty. She noticed a file cart half loaded with student records. The top folder had a note clipped to it. "Do not forward. Family no longer in district. No longer in district." She went back to the kitchen, took off her apron, folded it carefully. By the time November came, Teresa had stopped asking questions. No one wanted to answer. Not the district, not the board, not the principal, who now passed her in the hallways without eye contact like guilt was contagious. The kitchen remained closed, but she still came in, not to cook, but to be there, to be present, to bear witness. Each day she'd find a few more chairs missing from the lunchroom, a few more names removed from the attendance board near the front office. And on the buses that once overflowed with noisy, tired kids, empty seats, whole rows. The school was still open, technically, but the soul had been evacuated in silence. Teresa kept a notebook now. She didn't write down meals or deliveries. She wrote names, faces, kids she remembered. Deshawn, who always asked for a second biscuit. Myra, who once gave her a crayon drawing of a house with 2 sons. Luis, who used to sneak extra napkins to bring home for his little sister. All gone. No explanations. No follow-up. Just gone. She sat in the empty cafeteria one afternoon, the sun slicing through the high windows, dust dancing in the stillness. There was no bell, no clatter of trays, no rush of sneakers on tile. Only the quiet, the deep, echoing kind. She ran her hand across a clean table, paused where Myra once sat. That girl had laughed with her mouth full, drawn stars on her milk carton, and once asked Teresa if lunch ladies got summer break too. Teresa had laughed. Now she didn't know what to do with that memory. Later that week, a shipment arrived. Dry goods, shelf-stable items. No fresh produce. No dairy. A note was clipped to the top. Emergency food distribution. Non-student allocation. Non-student. She read it again. So this wasn't for the kids. It was for someone else. Something else. The kitchen would open again, but not to feed the ones who needed it most. She packed the food away, quietly, no resistance. She knew better now, knew how this worked, how systems folded without warning, how they erased the smallest voices first, how no one missed the ones who never made headlines. She walked out that night and left her badge on the counter, not out of protest, out of grief, because you can't keep feeding an institution that stopped feeding its people. Teresa never stood at the front of a classroom. She didn't assign homework, didn't grade tests, but she saw the kids. Every single one, before the bell, after lunch, when their shoulders slumped just a little too low, or when their trays stayed full because rent was due and groceries weren't coming. And when they started vanishing, not all at once, but piece by piece. She noticed before anyone else dared to admit it. They'll say later that no one could have known, that the collapse came fast, that circumstances changed, but she'll remember the leftovers, the silence, the files marked no longer in district. She'll remember the face of a boy who asked for ketchup packets so he could save them for later, and how later never came. She didn't write policy, didn't speak at board meetings, didn't sign memos, but she bore witness. And long after the building is repurposed and the records are wiped, she will still carry their names,